actually is one of the first woman scientists in Bell Research Lab.
That if you fail, you're in trouble. Absolutely not. You know, Lincoln failed in business, Truman failed in business, Clinton was impeached, and we won't talk about the current president. So, no, there's, so if you make a mistake, you just keep going, and don't let it keep you down. So that's one myth. Another myth is you should go to the best school you can. Not necessarily. You should go to the best school you can afford, yes. But, and another myth is that the more expensive school, the more expensive it'll be for you. I'll deal with both those myths now. If you go to if you want to go to medical school, how many of you want to go to medical school? I see quite a few. If you want to go to medical school, two things are very important. One is the grades, and the other is recommendations. Now, as far as grades go, the so-called better schools are harder to get good grades in. So you have less competition in schools that are not so difficult to get into. So it's almost 6 of one, a half a dozen of the other if you want to go to medical school. Then, if you want to go to medical school, you first go to college and then you go to... Oh, and the other I talked about was the cost. If you can get into the really expensive schools like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, etc., and we have a list of those. I gave you a list of those who pay 100% of need, and those are often the very expensive schools, but they're hard to get into. So you may do better financially to go to a more expensive school. So it's not the cost of the school, it's the cost of the school to you. And some people say, well, what do you care? Medical school is so expensive anyway. You do care. Because if you go to a school that you pile on loans, eventually you may not be able to finish. And that would, again, there is no problem that you can't solve, but why get into that problem, which will slow you down, when you can go into other schools that won't cost you as much and do just as well. You really can get a good education. Many people have gotten PhDs in medical school who started off in a community college and then transferred. Your transcript says graduated from, let's say it's Cornell, if you transferred from a 2-year school and went to Cornell or wherever. It'll say bachelor's degrees from. Another thing that's a myth is that you have to go to college and then go to medical school. Not necessarily. That is, of course, you would go to college first, but you can get into medical school from high school in a few cases if you get into one of those 7 or 8 year programs, and those are wonderful. They're tough to get into. Do we have anybody here now who got into one of those? I know somebody has. Sophie Davis. Yeah, she's not here. But I mean, if you get into one of those, I advise you take it. Because Brown has it and some other schools have it. Because then you don't have to worry about those awful MedCats. You're already in medical school as long as you keep a B average. But another myth is that if you don't become a doctor, you won't like your career. That's obviously not true. Dr. Stady, you're happy with your career? Okay, and got PhD in science. And you know, it depends what you want to do. But there are plenty of careers without going to medical school. But 4-year bachelor's degree is, in my opinion, for all you smart people, a necessity. It will do you very well. I know a teacher who who didn't want to study after high school, got a good grade, got a good job, worked their way up in a manufacturing place, worked their way up, became a supervisor, but that was it. They couldn't get any higher, and then they brought in college kids to be their boss, and they went back to college and became a teacher. So you don't, you get that 4-year degree. I think all of you would anyway. But I'm trying to say how you can do it, and you don't do it by going to a college where you have to take a $12,000 or even a $10,000 loan. I would not do that. I would go to another college, like a state, the wonderful state colleges or city colleges from New York. It is another possibility that do very well. You know, the winner of a $100,000 Intel scholarship went to City College. So you can don't deny yourself a good college education without a big loan. Another myth is you do better financially if you go into the Army, the Navy, or the Reserve. Don't believe that. Those recruiters, that's their job to recruit you. But if you go into those, you will then be there for, I think it's 5 years, although they can get you another year, 6 years. And if you figure out the cost of those 6 years in your life, you're better off not taking that extra way to go to college. In addition, you will be bossed by people who are dumber than you. And you don't want that. And that's going to happen if you are an enlisted person. If you really want the military, I'm not saying don't do military, but you're all officer material. Get into the Coast Guard, West Point, or ROTC, where you're guaranteed to be an officer. And you get college help right away. Don't let anybody talk you into any of those things. Not this group. I'm not saying it's for nobody, but it's not for any of you. Networking. You've all heard networking is good. But what is that? Networking is not asking other people for help. Networking is talking to other people, maybe helping other people, and then sometime if you need help, you've established your friends. You've gotten friends. That's all networking is. Networking is making friends. And it's very useful. Always. You can network with secretaries, you network with professors, with graduate students, with your fellow students. It's very, very good and very useful. Another myth is if you gave your college application, request for transcript, whatever, to your guidance counselor, you've done your job. No, because they are human too. And very often, they don't pass it on for some reason. It gets lost in their desk or whatever. You have to check and make sure it's been received, whatever it is. Also, just because you ask a professor to send you a letter of recommendation, doesn't mean you've done your job. You have to check it's been sent, not with them, but with the school. Which means that when you apply, you've got to apply at least a week before things are due so that you can check and make sure everything goes in time. Another myth is guidance counselors always know best. Some of you already know that's not true. But many of them do. But others are just guidance counselors because they wanted to get out of the classroom. And obviously you make them your friend. But if they don't do what you want, then you go to another guidance counselor, go to the head guidance counselor, or bring in a parent, or if that's not possible, an uncle, aunt, or an older brother. I think an older brother probably has a little more clout than an older sister, but an older sister will do too, nowadays, yes. So, it's up to you to follow what you want. Now, sometimes guidance counselors have a good reason for what they say, in which case, listen to them, and then think maybe they're right.